Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of Suit Up, the Warframe frame review series. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Queen of the Healers, one of the best frames in the game, Trinity. Trinity has been in the game for quite some time now, and has always been one that's caused debate, controversy, and even memes related to balancing. However, she's always remained a staple Warframe in any serious group, and one that remains loved by a huge part of the Warframe player base. So why exactly is that? Well, Trinity can be farmed on the Phobos tileset by taking down both Thor and Krill at the same time. Now, since there are two other weapons on those bosses as well, farming Trinity can be fairly frustrating when you're actually farming for her. So what do you get when you finally manage to farm her? Well, when you look at her stats, quite frankly, they're pretty distinctly average. A base health of 300 at level 30, shield capacity also of 300, sprint speed of 1 and a stamina of 100. I mean, there's nothing special here. She does also come with a very below average armor rating of just 15, meaning that on her stats she is very squishy. Her one notable stat though is that she has a higher than average energy pool at 225. So I mean, looking at the base stats, it's not exactly anything special so far. So it must be her abilities that makes her so amazing. And you would be absolutely right. So since we touched on her abilities, let's take a look at them. Trinity's first ability, Well of Life, creates a well of life on an enemy. Allies will gain health when damaging the target. So what this means is that Trinity will target an enemy and 45% of the health done by an ally on the target will be released as a heal, up to a maximum of 400 health. Not only this, but the target of the ability will also be suspended in mid-air, and can actually be used as a tiny amount of crowd control on a high priority target if the needs be, although while it is still active it cannot be recast. So do I like the skill? No, not really, not at all. The amount of health it restores is far too low for the time it takes to actually get the heal, and there are far faster ways of healing you and your allies, like her fourth ability, Blessing, for a start, which we will talk about a little bit later. The only time I ever use Well of Life is in conjunction with Energy Vampire, her second ability, which I will talk about a little bit later, or if I need quick crowd control, and take a heavy unit out of the fight quickly. Now, Well of Life does come with an augment mod, which means that the enemies marked by Well of Life will drop health orbs upon their death. Now, I don't know what the thinking behind this mod actually is, and whether it's just a straight up admittal that Well of Life doesn't heal enough. But quite frankly, there's no reason to lose a mod spot for this augment at all. I would never use it on any build ever, and I would go so far as to call this one of the worst augments in the game. The health it drops, I mean, it drops 25 health, and at max level you get 4 of those, so that's an extra 100 health, which to be honest is absolutely nothing, plus a 25% chance for an energy orb. You're talking about a frame that can fart and get more health and energy than that immediately, without actually having to use a mod slot for it. So quite frankly, I wouldn't go near this with a 10-foot barge pole. Now, Trinity's second ability, Energy Vampire, is quite frankly one of her strongest. When she uses this ability, allies will gain energy over time when enemies are marked with Energy Vampire. Now, the way that EV is used is that when cast, an enemy will be targeted and will pulse 4 times. But each time it pulses, Trinity and allies will be restored 25 energy at max level, and the target will be dealt 6.25% of its health as finisher damage. EV does benefit greatly from power strength, however benefits most from negative power duration. Now, the reason for this is that the amount of ticks will not change, it will always be 4, but reducing the duration makes those ticks much closer together, increasing the energy gain, decreasing the time that it will be cast again, and not affecting the actual amount of energy gained at all. Now, the EV target will also be stunned for the duration, so like Well of Life, it can be used as temporary crowd control if the need arises. The thing about EV is that it can keep entire squads and entire raid groups spamming their fourth ability consistently, no matter what their build, provided they're in range for energy. Properly built, an EV Trin can be an absolute linchpin of any team. Now, as I said before, the only time I use Well of Life is in conjunction with Energy Vampire. Now, the reason for that is that you can cast Energy Vampire on a target just as Well of Life is about to finish, and you can deal an insane amount of damage to that target very quickly. Now this is actually a damage dealing skill that can, well, it can scale all the way up into extremely late game, since the damage done relates to the health of the target you have Well of Life on. So it can take down very high targets very, very quickly. Now Energy Vampire does have an augment mod as well, but I'm not going to go through how that works in this video, since just before this video came out, a modular episode talking about Vampire Leech should already have come out talking about this mod. So Trinity's third ability, Link. Another extremely amazing skill and hugely useful. After casting her ability, any damage taken while Link is active will be channeled to a nearby enemy. Trinity will take a damage reduction of 75% while Link is active on any enemy. Plus it will reflect all incoming damage and status effects onto a maximum of 3 enemies at any one time. Now the thing about the reflected damage is that the damage from enemy weapons will damage the Link targets as though they were shooting themselves, meaning that the ability actually scales insanely well. But not only that, the self-inflicted damage you can do on Trinity is also passed on to the linked enemy, as though the player was damaging them directly. Now what this means is that while Link is active, the player can damage themselves, with weapons things like the Angstrom, the Ogress or the Stug, and pass damage from themselves to the enemy. Now this is insanely risky, since the ability to accidentally kill yourself is super high, but if done right this can be an absolutely devastating ability. Not only able to help Trinity to survive in very tight situations, but to deal out a serious amount of damage as well. Once again, there is an augment mod for her Link ability, Abating Link. While connected to enemies, the augment will reduce their armor value. Now this augment poses a bit of a dilemma. It's actually possible to reduce the enemy armor value to 0 using this augment, but it means stacking power strength. Now the reason that's a big problem is that Link doesn't actually benefit from power strength at all, so your usual Link build is not going to work. Plus you're going to have to lose a mod slot for the augment, plus at least one more for power strength. Now I would love to use this mod since it would make the Link build much more rounded and scale even better, but quite frankly I've not found a build that I really like yet. So maybe if I manage to find one that I can make work, I will put it in later. However, as of right now, I mean it saddens me, but I really can't make this augment work for me. Finally, Trinity's fourth ability, Blessing, is possibly her strongest skill, and the one that has had the most changes over the years. This ability immediately restores the health and shields of all allies, while simultaneously providing a degree of damage immunity to the team. The greater the healing, the greater the immunity. So effectively with no mods, Blessing will restore 80% of health and shield and will provide damage resistance equal to the percentage health restored for 10 seconds. Now the thing about Blessing is that while most abilities have a max range on them, Blessing does not, and can heal the entire map at any point, making this easily the strongest heal in the game. Now originally Blessing made everybody completely invulnerable for the entire duration of the ability. Now with the fact that the ability takes the lowest health value among the team to decide on what percentage damage resistance to apply, a whole new tactic has been developed to make the most out of Blessing. Self-damage weapons in conjunction with quick thinking is the most common way of gaining the most out of the 99% Blessing Trinity, and a single Trinity can keep entire groups of allies alive. I've personally kept entire raid groups from dying. I mean, this is dying once by good use of the self-damage 99% resistance build. It's seriously strong and quite frankly the marker of a great Trinity if they can pull it off without dying themselves or without anybody in their squad dying. And I will talk a little bit later about the weapon I use for the self-damage, and I will give the build for that as well. Okay, so let's move on to starting to mod Trinity. Now she comes with a couple of polarities as standard. She comes with 2 Ds and she comes with a D in the aura polarity. We're going to add 4 former to Trinity, even though that says 5. We're going to add the dash to the aura polarity. We're also going to add another dash, a D and a V. Now this build here is pretty much my EV build. So I've got energy siphon up here. I mean it's not really needed. Probably better off with a corrosive projection. And we're going to go with redirection and vitality, the standard HP mods. Primed Flow, which is going to help with the excess power to stay on Trinity. We're going to go Blind Rage, Transient Fortitude, which is going to increase the amount of energy we're going to get from EV. Overextended and Stretch, which is going to extend the range that the EV is going to go out to. And we're going to have Vampire Leech, the new augment, on there as well. Now, if you don't feel that the excess shield is actually worth it, I at the moment seem to think it's actually pretty good. However, I mean, not everybody agrees. So you can switch that out for an Intensify, and that will further increase the amount of energy you actually get from this build. Now, as you notice, there are no efficiency mods on here. With the amount of energy you're getting from this, you're always going to get more than you actually use to actually cast it. So this is definitely going to be fine for you. And we've also got this is the Blessing build that I use. We've got Corrosive Projection on there. We've got Narrow-Minded for duration, as well as Primed Continuity, which is also for duration. We've got Primed Flow, which is going to work with the Quick Thinking to try and stop us from dying. We've got Intensify to make sure that our heal is always going to be 100%. We've got Streamline, so we've got a little bit of efficiency in there just to help with the casting of that. We've got Redirection as our only HP mod, and we've got Natural Talent, which is very, very useful for those raids where the casting speed really is needed. You need to be able to cast that as quickly as possible so that you don't let your teammates die. Now we've also got what I'm using as my Link build right now. We've got Corrosive Projection, we've got Rage and Quick Thinking, which are going to work together. We've got Transient Fortitude and Intensify, which is going to work for the EV to try and help keep the Link up as much as possible. Overextended and Stretch to make the Link go as far as possible. We've got Vitality, obviously to work together with the Rage and Quick Thinking. And I mean, that's pretty much it for that. I mean, I don't have a baiting Link in here just yet. I don't really have a build that I like to have a baiting in here just yet. I mean, I am going to be working on it a little bit more. I'm not 100% happy with the Link build. I've put it there for you to sort of show what I'm using right now. I'm not 100% happy with it, and I'm probably going to change it fairly soon. And I will do an update as soon as that happens. Now, for the self-damage weapon, at the moment I'm using the Glaive Prime because it's much easier. This is the build I use. The stance really doesn't matter, but the actual mod rank does make a big difference. So we're going to go with Quick Return, which is going to mean that it's going to explode our feet. We've got Power Throw. We've got Sport Strike, 1 up. We've got Pressure Point, which is 3 up. We've got Fever Strike, 1 from the top, along with Virulent Scourge. Now this is going to help go straight through your shields. And this is the reason why we've got the Quick Thinking on there as well, just to make sure we don't accidentally kill ourselves. Toxin, as you know, cuts straight through shields. It completely ignores them, and it will just go straight to health. So the reason we use this Toxin is so that we've got Redirection on there. It gives us a little bit of an extra buffer in those raids, just to try and help to make sure that we don't go down very often. And obviously we've got Fury on there as well, which is going to help us actually throw the glaive just a little bit faster. And this build is going to take you down to like 2 HP pretty much every single time without going too much into your Quick Thinking. This build is very reliant on not having rejuvenation in your squad, and it's very reliant, very reliant on not having steel charge. If you have steel charge, you're going to go further into your Quick Thinking, and you're going to be very energy heavy. So just remember that when you're using this self-damage build. So after all of this, is Trinity worth the farm, effort and resources you need to invest into maxing her? And let's be honest, of course she is. There is absolutely no debate here. She is easily the strongest support frame in the game, and if used correctly, one of the strongest frames in general. Her ability to give out health and resistance with her blessing, while keeping the squad topped up with energy with her energy vampire, she is a true support frame in the truest form. It's funny when you think about every change that she's ever had, every change to Trinity, and the amount of people that said that she would now be completely useless. However, with a bit of thinking and a bit of a rethink, looking really closely at her abilities, she's still one of the best frames in the game, an absolute staple in any squad running just about any game mode you can think of. Usually I'd say that a frame is underappreciated because of the lack of killing power. I mean, frames like Volt are a fantastic example of that. However, people know how good Trinity is, and judging by how many are requested in the recruiting chat, she is far from the useless state that people predicted. Played badly, she can provide nothing to a team, as I've seen many a Trinity do. However, played well and smartly, she can turn the tide of a squad, carrying those that are not the strongest or the most survivable to higher levels than they could think of without her. In the interest of being honest, until recently I had an EV Trin set up, and I didn't really look at the rest of her abilities. I'd have classed myself as a fairly good EV Trin, but a bad Trinity player in general. And I've been using her a ton recently, and I've got really got to know her abilities almost inside out. And I appreciate her way more, just how good a frame that she is. Insane heals, insane energy output, and even insane survivability for herself and the entire squad. Trinity is one of the best frames in the game, deserving of a second look for those who wrote her off after the changes, because you are seriously missing out. As always guys, many thanks for watching. Please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, it helps me out a ton, and I shall see you in the next episode.